All right. We are live. And I'm trying to go live on Instagram, folks, and I don't know, doesn't seem to be working for me. So I'm sorry about that. We'll try to work out the kinks at a different time, but welcome. So we were having issues with mics and sounds, and so I'm sorry I'm late. You guys know I hate being late, but stuff happens, I guess. So this year on the on the podcast, we are working specifically on introducing different people who went through different parts of a spiritual transformation, spiritual awakening. And I want to introduce you, I'm sorry, different people, friends, students, fellow coworkers that I know who are making headway in their development and their research and their information. And I think that they're great sources to have on the show. So instead of me doing all the talking, we're going to be sharing the screen with Don Rogers. Don is a spiritualist, podcaster, and content creator, best known for running the YouTube channel at March 4th Production. He explores a wide range of esoteric, metaphysical, alternative topics, including spiritual awakening, near-death experience, ayahuasca journeys, source being, cosmic realities, the fourth dimension, paranormal phenomena, black ops, government conspiracy, alien abduction, secret space program, shamanic practices, healing modalities, and consciousness expansion. So, welcome, Don.
Thank you, Sonya. That was quite a mouthful. And yeah, I guess they do have a lot of plates spinning.
So I hope the sound is okay for everybody, because for me, you're coming in a little scratchy, but we'll do our best because we tried everything we could.
It's a bit wonky, but we'll get through it.
All right. And there seems to be a time delay, so we'll try and work this out. So, hello. We've got Chris that's watching us from YouTube. So, hi, Chris. And last time we weren't getting the comments from my channel. So I apologize to everybody who was commenting on Facebook on my account, and I couldn't see your comments. So now we know that YouTube is coming through, and I'm gonna sometimes look off to the side to my phone to make sure that if you guys are commenting on there, I can at least, see you there, you guys on the phone, and I can reply your questions there. So let me just go to the right page. There we go. And we are live. Awesome. Sweet. Perfect. So I have a few questions that I prepared for you, Don. And I wanted to walk through to what happened. What on earth happened to you? And how did you make your way out of that into where you are now? So what exactly took place? The first thing that happened to you that sent you in this otherworldly experience?
Well, it's interesting because I've always had some understanding of okay, up until about 2.5 years ago, what I knew about paranormal and the spiritual and metaphysical was I know I had a UFO experience when I had a UFO experience, and I was pretty sure ghosts were real. That's what I knew about any of this 2.5 years ago. And I started having a succession of nightmares, and they were so tactile, so real, and horrifying. I won't go into great detail about them, but it went on for probably about 8 or 9 nights, and just terrifying military experience. The only military experience I have is I was in air cadet when I was 8 years old, so we know it's not PTSD and I was having a lot of these nightmares, and it was really upsetting. I wasn't sleeping or anything, and Kyla, my wife, eventually is like, you have to watch this podcast. You have to watch this podcast. You have to watch the podcast. I'm like, I don't watch podcasts. I think they're stupid. I'm not watching them. And she's like, no, this has something to do with what's going on with you. I'm like, no. And we got to the point where she almost had to literally sit on me and go, listen to this. And what it was an episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. The host, Rob DeLille. And he had a guest on that was explaining his secret space program experience. And by the end of that episode, so much of it was so relatable that I was literally in tears. Because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going through. You know, there's something going on with the consciousness. How is this experience happening? So that whole thing opened to me, like, you know, I'm having an experience in another reality, and somebody's doing this. Because that's what a lot of these secret space program believe is that it's the military black ops thing, not really the black ops part of things. And I actually dealt with what I would call spiritual psychosis for a while, because like the secret space program is all I could think of. It's all I could focus on. It became a part of me. Like it was all I could do was like this secret space program. I have to figure this out. What's going on? Why am I having these experiences? And something pivoted in me just all of the sudden. And it was the realization that whatever super soldier program I was experiencing isn't the whole point of all of this. The point was that I was experiencing multidimensional consciousness and bringing back memories. Because what I'm experiencing, and I've done a lot of hypnosis to have this explained. Well, I explained it to myself under hypnosis is the best way I can tell you about it. Is what I was experiencing is a military program in the year 2200, and it is basically a protection for the humans that run that realm. And they use a consciousness shifting thing. Basically, they've developed the technology to put your consciousness into blank humans so you can serve to protect humanity. That was that whole part that I figured out. But the main takeaway from it was that I was experiencing a consciousness that I should not be able to remember. And that just kind of blew my whole mind open. I'm like, well, wait a minute. And remember a consciousness that doesn't exist for another 125 years. Then that means a lot of other things that I've been told probably aren't real might be real.
Well, technically, because if it's 2200, it's in the future. Now, and a lot of people talk about past lives, but I think that you're the first person I actually talked to that remembers a future life, which would be very interesting because just this week, one of my students says, I don't understand this time thing. Like, we're here now, we live in the now, and you're talking about past life, but you're saying they're not past, they're happening now, and yet this is exactly it, right? You're experiencing your future life in the now.
Exactly. And the best way I can explain it is, and this might actually help your student, is we experience time as linear, but it not actually as a thing, it is not. Time is everywhere all at once, right? We just, as biological human beings in this density, have to experience it in a linear form, or it would drive us insane, because it almost drove me insane. When you start remembering shit that hasn't happened for 125 years and you're trying to live in this reality, it starts to, you get some crossed wires. So on a biological level, in the human experience, it's just more convenient that we experience time in a linear fashion, really. But no, what it is, and I've actually had a bit of thought about, mental illness and how this relates to that, is I believe that we can see all stages of our consciousness. And I think a lot of mental illness is medical misnomers for those conditions, but those people don't have the psychological filter to realize that they're seeing into another dimension or remembering a past life or a future life, because you can't, if you don't know what the hell you're going through, you can't filter it. right? It will literally drive you crazy because it almost drove me crazy, right? Kyla was terrified. She thought I was going to end up in a psychiatric ward because it was literally all I could do. It was all I could think of. Once I learned that it was just a stage of the energetic being that pilots this awesome suit that I'm wearing, I was like, holy shit, I'm everywhere all at once too. I'm just having the dawn experience right now, right? When you start to break down consciousness into individual experiences, you can actually start to filter through past lives, future lives, and it and you can drive yourself crazy trying to understand it and obsess about it, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, I did some heroic and amazing things and went through some terrible things. Like, I've had my teeth smashed out with rifles and blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't happen for another 125 years, and it's certainly not going to be this suit of me, right? It's a different version of my consciousness. And that was what really blew open my experience, because like it was terrifying. I thought I was getting PTSD from somebody else's memories. And then I was like, what is going on? And then I was starting to get bleed through.
Exactly.
Like, I would look at Kyla and she'd be like, you're right. I'm like, oh, I'm only about 60% here. And like, I could see other parts of the reality that I had experienced. And it really wasn't until I made peace with what it was that I was able to, I can recall it now like memory, but it was so prevalent and so necessary for me to understand that until I did, it wouldn't go away.
There's quite a delay for me to hear you because I can't hear you on the laptop, so I have to hear you from Facebook. So that's why I get the headphones on. So while you're talking, I may be laughing, but I'm like 20 seconds behind you laughing. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It'll be a funny thing, but for some reason, I think my microphone on my laptop crapped out, so I can't hear you. That's the only way I can do this. What an experience, Don. This is like, wow. I'm trying to make sense of it all, right? Like the closest thing that I can relate to is when I went to, I was dreaming at night, and I'm dreaming about this time in Hamburg. And until to the point where it was bothering me so much that I decided to fly to Hamburg. And, you know, it occurs to me now, I could have done internet search. I could have looked at maps of Hamburg. I could have done a lot of things, but I was like, no, I need to go. I need to check it for myself. I need to be there. I need to walk around. And only to realize that during the day, I'm living Sonya's life. And at night, I was reliving, or consciously connecting to this life. I mean, you know, time being non-linear, really, right? So it feels like when I go to sleep at night, then I'm plugging into these other past lives, and I'm like, I'm being chased by the Gestapo. I'm like, you know, there's shit going on, and I went there and I found all the places I was dreaming about, and I found all these places, and I'd never been there before. So obviously, I absolutely had nothing that could have been a remembrance, you know what I mean? But at least with a past life, you can check things out. So as opposed to you know, you can't, because you're stuck. So and I've had several experiences. Like when I was in Egypt, I was walking where the temple of Isis is, and I grabbed Chris's hand, and I was like, I'm describing this scene to her, and she's like, wow, did you read that somewhere? I was like, no, I'm there right now. I'm seeing the people dressed in white linen. I'm seeing someone giving birth over there in that room. I'm there right now. And she's like, well, careful, if you walk, you're gonna stumble on this rock. Well, right now, wherever time I'm in, there's no rock in front of me. So I was like, wow, my mind is blown. But this is I'm so happy I have you, and I can share this with everybody who's watching, because it is confusing, right? Because you're like, what movie did I watch? What's wrong with me? And you know, you're trying to find all the logical explanation as how did this happen? How is this possible, right? and yet you're like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. This feels too real. Like I've had dreams or meditation visions that I come out of, and I still feel the pain of what I just saw. Like in one of my past life, I was a pirate, or at least I was a Chinese fisherman on a ship, and pirates were there and blew my knee, and I woke up in terrible pain, like for like a good, well, I don't know, a good minute. It was like my knee had just been blown to bits, right? And so to me, it makes me think that sometimes some of our illnesses and some of our issues, they come from this attachment to these other, you know, to say it in your words, consciousness of awareness of these other time period. And so right now we can explain why we're sick, but in this life you are. And so by being connected, so connected to it, that's how you end up, you know, tagging this energy of being sick, defacing yourself, and experiencing these things. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like tactile remembrance is what I would refer to that as, is like I could remember the sensation of my teeth being knocked out, being shot, being killed. And I know you're 20 seconds behind, so I'm going to try to go slow because I do talk like a motorboat. So I'm just going to like breathe as I'm talking and not skip through subjects. But no, I've had that tactile remembrance where you wake up in pain from something you just felt. Like you're just like, I was just there, I'm bleeding, and like terrifying. Like Kyla couldn't sleep beside me because I would wake up swinging. Like it was intense. Like I was like consciously there, but physically coming back here. And you know, I'm going to jump into this because one of the things that when I started going through this, that really brought me some peace of mind about being able to understand what your consciousness is and what we're able to do with it, is I did about 3 months of a deep study on myself with astral projection and bilocation, meditation, breathing, and those types of things. Like I was able to figure a lot of this out. Like I've had 3 OBEs and 2 by choice. And after I got so good at it, I actually went on Typical Skeptic, and I picked a subject. I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a bunch of military stuff. And I was able to find stuff from the 1800s all the way up to showing him where a Space Force base is, because there's a version of me that knows damn near everything about the military and a lot about military history. I went on his channel. I showed him where missile silos were. I showed him where bases were. I showed him where Space Force is up in Alaska. I brought him right to a U.S. government page. And this is all stuff that I found doing bilocation and having out-of-body experiences. And what I was doing was basically setting the wanted to go. I always have a no interaction clause with any other human. I'm there to see the place, not the people. So I don't interact with them. And I was able to bring back full detail and prove that I was actually in these places that I've never been by pulling it up on Google Earth and Google Maps and showing him like, no, this is a real thing. And I think, like I said, the thing that made my understanding of consciousness really get to that breakthrough point was the meditation and the astral projection and the bilocation. And it is not something to be played with. And I learned this the hard way, because there were several times when I would get just a little bit out of body and then get slapped back into my body, like some giant energy basically pushed me back into it. If you don't know what you're doing and you're just playing, they will put you in your place as well. There are things outside of the physical that also monitor those realms.
Okay.
And that really was where it kind of took off. And I started doing a show Rob and I were very good friends at this time, and I started doing a show basically reviewing his shows and going over the pertinent details because Rob does like 3 shows a day and a lot of people miss stuff. So I would pick 1 or 2 out a week and do a show on his show. And then it kind of led into, much like this, me having guests. And then I realized like I have about 1,000,000 questions, and the best way for me to find out the answers is to start interviewing people and just ask them from that 101 standpoint so everybody can get it. And I said this in front of Kyla a couple of times, and she's like, some people might take that the wrong way because I say that I do my show from a 6th grade level. And she's like, some people might take that you're talking down to them. And I'm like, no, because the part of me that wouldn't have understood a damn thing about this 2.5 years ago would have needed this explained to him at like a 6th grade level. And that's why I started doing my show. I'm actually, I think, 103 episodes or something like that in now. But it's literally just to help myself learn and educate others along the way.
Wow, that's a lot of episodes. That's amazing. I know you there is quite a bit of a delay, but we're working with it. So, I mean, you talked about UFOs at first. So, do you want to talk about that, or is that something that you're more iffy about?
No, I can actually tell you a pretty funny story, and it'll go back to 93. I was doing an interview with somebody from basically the Canadian version of MUFON. And all of a sudden, this experience came back to me in like full detail. And I was telling the person, I lived in Ontario at the time, and we were directly across Georgian Bay from the Meaford military base. And there was me, 4 other kids, and like 3 adults. So there was like 8 people. And we saw these lights, and it's like, this is weird. And then basically it became like the Phoenix lights, except you have to remember this was in 93. So the Phoenix lights weren't even a thing at the time. This succession of orange dots just appeared over the base. And they were in like a typical triangle form at first. And then individually they started like going everywhere. And it was just this insane experience. And it lasted well over an hour. Right. And footnote, one of the parents, and again, this was in the time of like way before, well, not way before, just before the internet. One of the parents actually phoned the tank range and asked what that was. And the story we got was that they were testing a new type of flare, which I call BS. But anyways, what makes that story kind of funny and fun to share is 2 days after, and I actually still have the messages, 2 days after I did that episode, I got almost an angry message.
Yeah,
I got almost an angry message from my friend that was there, and her name was Sarah. And she's like, Dawn, it was in 1993. There was like 8 of them, and it went on for over an hour. And I'm like, did I message you about this? And she's like, no. I'm like, do you watch my show? And she's like, no. I'm like, why are you upset with me? She's like, I don't know. But that's when it happened. And I'm like, and I hadn't spoken to her. We didn't talk about this since we were kids, right? It was just something like, we saw some funny lights. But days after I brought it up for the first time in decades, she messaged me about it angry, almost like something had set her off. And it was some kind of subconscious trigger that I think we're all attached through now.
That's so weird. That she gets back to you, and there's no way that she didn't watch your show. But yet she needs to tell you this is what happened.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
Okay,
I hadn't.
So, but you've seen the lights, but have you ever met an alien?
Physically, no. I've been abducted several times, and this is another weird one to explain. I was driving to pick up Kyla. Oh, that's a terrible echo. There's feedback now.
There's feedback.
Yeah. As soon as you took your AirPods.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up to you. and so I turned my speaker on the laptop, trying to say to be more in sync with you, so I can still hear what's going on the phone. But yeah, I'm trying to troubleshoot this.
Yeah.
It's not working very well.
I'll just talk over myself. So basically what happened was I was driving to go pick up Tyler at work one day, and in the upper left side of my windshield, it felt like silver green. And it was weird because I remember my reaction. It wasn't, what is that? It was not again. And I was like, I kind of like snapped back to it, and I was like 2 miles down the road, and at my turn, I had just lost like 2 minutes. So for some reason, I was just incredibly irritated the rest of the day. And like, I mean, I was bitchy with her. I was bitchy with the dogs. I was bitchy with William. I just was in a mood, and for absolutely no reason. I ended up going to sleep that night, and what I can only describe as an Arcturian visited me and said, look, we messed up by about 2 minutes and you have been out of time. And that's why you're so agitated right now. And quite rightfully, there was no lip moving. It was all in here. I responded to him, I'm like, do you know what a dick I've been to like everybody for the last day because you guys missed by 2 minutes? And when I woke up, I felt completely fine. Everything was adjusted. I had full cognitive memory of interacting with this blue being. And Kyla just kind of laughs and goes, if it was anybody else, I don't know if I would believe it, but I believe you, and I was fine, and I had settled down, and like I wasn't grouchy anymore. So as far as like physically being awake and seeing something, no. But I've had many different sleep experiences, and there is one experience that the whole house had. And this one kind of shook me for a minute. During one of the lunar eclipse, we were all sleeping, and this was at about 3 o'clock in the morning, of course. It literally sounded like something peeled back the roof of our house like a Ziploc container. All three of us woke up at the exact same time with like the taste of fresh oxygen or mountain air in our mouths. And for about 15 to 30 seconds, I was just speaking absolute gibberish. Like I honestly think I was speaking another language because I looked at Kyla and I was like startled awake. I'm like, and she's like, Dawn. And I'm, what? And she's like, do you know what you just said? And I'm like, what? And she's like, it didn't even make sense. Like they weren't words. You were just making noises. And I'm like, I just woke up. And she's like, oh, right. So like, I don't know what I was connected to. I don't know what happened, but all three of us woke up under the same state at the exact same time. Yeah, and she's right. Her and I were holding hands when we woke up. Like, we woke up in bed holding hands in our sleep, and I woke up speaking in tongues. Like, she can verify everything I'm saying. And there's been other occasions where both of us have woken up with injection marks in the exact same place in the palms of our hands. So we've definitely had some strange experiences.
I actually believe you, Don. I have no problem believing what you're saying. I've had such strange experiences. Like I woke up speaking German and I hadn't learned German yet, right? So like we have experiences, but some people don't question it. Some people just go, well, that was a weird dream. And, you know, they find excuses for it. They don't go looking for answers like you did. They don't go trying to make sense of the experience. So this is then the next question I'd like to ask you, right? Because you weren't very spiritual when all this was happening. This just got thrown at you, and that sends you on this search. Now you talked about the military, and you talked about you know the these communication with extraterrestrial, but you've looked into the near death experiences, which is funny because I was just seeing Anita Morjani is putting together a course with the near death experiences, and she's saying that if we could experience something close to it without having to die, we could reset the way we think and feel and actually heal our body, right? And there's so much more through your exploration that you found. So let's go on to the near death experiences. What has that phenomena, and what did you learn, and how did that help you?
Well, one of the reasons I got into near death experiences, and I didn't really realize how many of them I've had, was because of the one that took place, not the November that just passed, the one before that. I was very, very ill for quite some time, and I was having a lot of stomach issues, and Kyla had asked me to, can you throw something on for supper? And I'm like, yeah, because I love to cook. I'm like, okay, yeah. I got up to the kitchen. I just was not feeling myself. I couldn't even butter a pan was, and I'm like, I can't do this. And then like go back to the bedroom, and of course the phone rings, and I'm like, you're gonna have to grab some pizza out of the fridge or something. I can't do this right now. She's like, okay. So I just kind of curled up behind her, and she's on the phone, and it was her estate lawyer because we've been waiting for inheritance settlement, blah blah blah. And I started feeling really, really off, and I'm like, I don't even feel like myself, but this is a huge phone call. Like, this is our future. I'm gonna grind through this, and I'm gonna shut up. And I'm just like, no, I have to say something. And I'm like, I'm really sorry to bring this up. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think I'm having a heart attack. And she kind of goes, what? And then the lawyer just loses his mind. He's like, get off the phone right now and call 911. So, of course, we get off the phone and call 911, and the EMTs show up. Well, first was some poor firefighter lady. She was just absolutely mortified because she could tell something was wrong with me because I was wrong. I was the wrong color, and my heart was doing the wrong things, and she had like zero equipment other than her truck that she showed up in. So the EMTs got here, and they hooked me up to all of the diodes and all the stuff, and they're like, yeah, there's definitely something going on in your chest. It's very irregular, and you're saying it's a lot of pain. So we're going to give you a shot of nitro. So give me some nitro, and it doesn't do anything. Like, it didn't slow it down at all. And they're like, and they can see me wincing from like every time I'm getting this pounding in my chest. And they're like, okay, we're going to give you some morphine. They give me morphine, and they give me another shot of nitro. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm getting an ominous feeling. Like I'm about to die. And I start talking in my head, and I'm like, I don't want to die. No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And this whole time, Kyla is beside me, like on her knees beside the bed, holding my hand, like basically berating me in her head, like, you asshole, we're like at the 5-yard line and you're going to die now. Like, really? And like, I'm having this chaotic thing, and she's about to lose me. And this voice that was my own comes into my head, and I'm going, I don't want to die. And then it answers back, and it goes, just for a second, or just for a minute. And I'm like, what? And it goes, just for a minute. I went, okay. And I just let go. And at this time, she sees that I'm fading and have like checked out. Now, I'm going to tell everybody my heart stopped for 2 seconds, right? I was no longer alive for 2 seconds. I had no heartbeat. And so I start to experience this transition. And basically I'm seeing, and it wasn't a bright light. My family wasn't there. God didn't tell me about all the bad things that I did. Nobody came to tell me that I had to do this again, or I owed any debt. It was just this plasmic orange energy. And I was Sonya, I always have a hard time explaining this part. I've watched my children be born. I've been married. I'm with the love of my life. I have an amazing stepson. I've had a decent life. I've experienced love. The emotion that I felt from this energy was more pure, more wholesome, and more loving than anything I had ever experienced in this reality. It warmed me on a soul level, so much so that I wanted to be a part of it. And I felt as though I was returning to the energy of everything that everything was created of. I was slowly just coming back.
Okay, so I'm just catching up to you saying that you were in this light and that you felt this incredible feeling of love, and that even though you have been loved and you're married and you have wonderful children and all that, nothing comes close to this feeling. Uh, but the light just wasn't white; it was amber. You said.
It was an orangish yellow. It almost looked like when you watch the sunrise, that plasma sphere that when if you stare at the sun you can almost see, except it didn't hurt your eyes. It was just warm. It wasn't bright white. It was a sunrise. That's all I can explain it, except it was just the energy that looked like the ball that is the sun. And when I felt that sensation, I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. And I felt like I was just rejoining everything. And then, of course, I had no idea. At the same time, Kyla is holding my hand, and somehow she can actually visualize what I'm experiencing. She can see me standing in front of this light and kind of like becoming a part of it. And she saw me walking towards an orange glow with a mist. And as I was becoming a part of this is the one part I am going to swear. She's like, don't you fucking dare. And that is literally, I heard the words, don't you effing dare echo. Like like I was in some astral Walmart and it came over the loudspeaker. Don't you dare. And I snapped back awake. And I'm like staring at her, and I have this asshole smirk when I know something. I started smirking at her, and she's like, if I hadn't have just died, she would have killed me. Okay. She's like, oh, but like, so everything goes the way it goes. It ends up that I had peritonitis, which constricted on the vessels of my heart. And I did actually have what they called a cardiac incident, which is a really nice way of saying your heart stopped. So back home from the hospital, and I'm like, did you swear at me in front of the paramedics? And she's like, no, that was in my head. And I'm like,
Oh wow.
I heard you. And she's like, I saw you. And I'm like, oh.
Now this is super cool. Because now between the two of you, you're having, by the way, I fixed the sound now. We're back on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, I could try the headphones. So you're having this experience, but she's in there with you. You can hear her thoughts, which is very familiar with the near-death experiences. You can hear what everybody is thinking, but she can see you as well. So wow, talk about connection. This is amazing.
Oh, and like she had already told me the story, like she was with her mother when her mother passed. Now, she walked her mother to the other side as well, but it was pure black because this is just the conclusion that we've come to, is she wasn't allowed to see because with that kind of emotional loss, she wouldn't have wanted to come back. She was allowed to see. She was allowed to see with me because this was a rescue mission to get my dumb hobbit ass back.
All right, this is gonna be a lot more fun now that we're on the same tempo.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, this is incredible. So, would you say that that's what started everything? Is that what started it all?
It started with the dreams, but a lot of my understanding came after that. Like, I started remembering, is the only way I can put it. I remember things from other consciousnesses now. Like when you were saying that you spoke German, I had another podcaster ask me the one time if I thought that this was a holographic reality. So I did the same thing that I did for astral projection and bilocation. I meditated very heavy onto it. And that's something I want to get into later because I think there's a way we can select where we go when we sleep, but that's a whole other thing.
I'm totally 100% behind you on that one.
I meditated on it. Shit, I lost my train of thought there. I interrupted myself. Where was I going with it?
You were meditating on the fact that this other podcaster asked you if this was
right, holographic reality. So I'm like, okay, I want to wake up and I want to know everything I remember about this reality and like if it's a holograph. I woke up with a rudimentary understanding of quantum physics and then ended up writing a paper that basically explains digital DNA storage and how this. I don't know why we're here, but I have a pretty good explanation as to how. And it's an entire paper that I ended up writing. And this is not me taking a shot at myself because of my lack of education, but I have a grade 10 education and none of it was quantum physics. I have not had one well-read, studied person read my paper and go, "You're wrong." Because
have anybody read your paper?
What's that?
Did you get anybody to get to read it?
I've had it's been shared. It's actually pinned to my Facebook page and it's been shared almost 30 times. I've gotten like dozens of comments on it. And like everybody that has read it went, I think you're right. Because
oh my gosh.
Basically what I've figured out is that this is a sentient biomolecular reality held together by density and frequency.
Yes.
Now, what gets really fascinating is that I also think that we receive our intelligence from a higher stage of consciousness that is helping us pilot our biological vessels. These biological vessels, you can actually store 13.5 billion years worth of data in a single human body. Now, the only reason that that number is relevant, because that's the approximate age of the known universe. So each and every one of us in our physical forms has the digital state data storage to hold all of the information of every minute of the universe that has ever existed. And that's just our current understanding. 1 gram of DNA can hold petabytes of information.
Okay, so now just for the fun of it, do you think that you can hold all the knowledge of the universe, or are you holding your perspective of the whole knowledge of the universe? You know what I mean? Like, I can tell you what's happened in the last 54 years because that's how long I've been on Earth, but it will be from my perspective and my understanding. So do you think that this knowledge that we can hold, like the entire story of the universe, would it be stored like as a witness kind of information safe, or would it be impregnated with our own personal take on it?
I don't think it's really tainted by anything because I think it's basically just the information of reality and there is no filter because like when I woke up and understood quantum physics, I just understood it, right? There was no
so awesome.
The way that I explain it is in my own personal perspective, but the information doesn't come through like Gnosis doesn't have a filter. It just comes through as pure raw information. Okay. Right? And when you're experiencing Gnosis, oftentimes you sound like a gibbering idiot because you just verbal diarrhea of all the information from the download you just got. But it's not until you really start to look at what you understand that you put your own spin on it. Like I used my new understanding of quantum physics to explain my thoughts on this reality. So I did put my own spin on my understanding, but the raw information I got was just the knowledge of the universe.
Okay, well, that answers my question. I don't know if we lost everybody else. But that made a lot of sense to me. I don't get to talk about these nerdy things with a lot of people, right? And I'm trying, and I understand when you say, my channel is from the understanding of a sixth grader, because it's not that we think that people are stupid, but we want everybody to understand it, and we don't know where anybody is coming in from. So, if people say NDE, okay, well, we got to start with it's near that experience, but those of us who talk about it all the time shrank it to NDE, right? So it sounds ludicrous to explain these little things sometimes, but we need to start somewhere, right? So I'm starting with, you don't know anything, you're watching this podcast, and we're trying to inform you, educate you, give you something to think about. This past week, I'm writing a new book, and so I like to put a lot of research behind what I'm writing, right? Because I want it to be supported by other authors and other people. And I quote Shirley MacLaine in there because she was my catalyst that helped me move in that direction. Because at the same time, she was 30 years older than me, but she started this, something intrigued her, and it started her questioning. It was much less dramatic than you, Don, but she started reading books, she started asking questions, and there's things that we take for granted, like reincarnation, or but she was the one that kind of got me going in that direction, right? So I was rewatching. Have you read the book Out on a Limb or seen the TV series Out on a Limb?
No.
So this it's her story on how she gets to begin her spirituality quest, if you will. And anyway, in the show, she's got a channel that comes. His name is Kevin Ryerson. And I saw this. I was 14 years old. There was no internet back then. I am aging myself at this point. So Bungo, I'm sorry for the audio. We were having audio issues. So, but I was like, wait a second. So this guy was younger than Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine is still alive. Maybe this guy is still alive. And there's the internet. And I just went on there and I found it. And he actually still does readings. So I've applied for a reading with this guy. So I cannot wait. I'm hoping to get my appointment for March. I think it's between March 10, March 18, somewhere around there. And I have some questions for this guy, like about spirituality and the soul. And there's things that I've found, there's things that I've read, there's knowledge I accumulated over the past 40 years. But to have someone who's a known good channel to be able to answer me and my question, I'm so pumped. I cannot wait. So I got my list of questions, and honestly, I've already got 2 pages of questions, and I'm not sure we're gonna have enough time, but whatever. At least I'm prepared. I got my questions ready to go. If you could ask a question and get a clear answer, Dawn, what would be your question? What is it that you really, really would love to be sure of? That I remember a lot of past lives. So I'm going to ask, did I have those past lives? Am I imagining this shit, or is this real, right? I want to ask that. I want a confirmation, goddamn it. And if I can get just that, it's going to boost me. You know what I mean? It's going to give me more courage to share everything else that I, experience and all that. So what is it for you that you would ask?
That's actually funny, because that is something I did during one of my hypnosis sessions. And the practitioner is like, are you sure you want to do that? And it's been gentle, and I'm still learning. But one of the things, because on the basis that subconsciously we know a lot more than we actually realize that we know. And I know that hypnosis is a lot to do with your subconscious. During one of the sessions, I asked my subconscious to explain everything to me. I want to know everything. And the practitioner is like, are you? And for 3 weeks after, I drove Kyla insane because I knew everything. I knew everybody could fucking ask me about. I had an answer. And I was like, okay, yeah, we might want to cut that back. I can deal with understanding the universe, but knowing everything, that's a bit much. But I honestly think I would ask probably a very similar question, because my experience in that timeline that set all of this off was so tactile and so realistic. I almost need to know if the human mind is capable of creating that experience, or if that is actually my conscious experience just 124 years now in the future. It's ticking down.
But I mean, so what you're saying is you're wondering if your imagination could have created that realistic, feeling of you getting shot in the teeth and everything else that's happening to you.
Yeah.
Or you're asking, which sounds simpler to me, is that you just connected to this future life. Honestly, I think it's so much less work to just be.
It makes a lot more sense to me logically that I remembered it, because the understanding of us having to experience time in a linear fashion also changed my perspective a lot. It's just how we function biologically. It doesn't mean that that's how time is actually laid out, right? This is just where we are, right? Right now, I am done talking to Sonya.
Right. So, but what I'm working on right now, right? I'm going to throw myself out there. What I'm working on right now is, if time does not even exist, it's a concept, right? It's a concept. It's an idea. But because we believe this concept and this idea, it makes it real. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if we accept that time is real, then we have to prove that time goes by. And that's where we're aging and having white hair and having wrinkles and that kind of stuff. However, I'd say about, it was in 2017, so almost 10 years ago, I said, you know what? Time is not real. Time is a concept. I refuse to believe in this concept anymore. So, I mean, you guys know how old I am, but I do not look my age. And you know me for real. We've met in real. So you know that This isn't fake. This is my face.
That's not a filter.
There's no filter. It's just me. So I've literally stopped aging.
Yeah.
Right?
And
oh, go ahead. So, and I have nieces that are the same age as me. And at first they're like, it's going to catch up to you. I said, why would it? Time doesn't exist. And now, 10 years later, they're actually getting really, really pissed off, because they're having the wrinkles, they're having the white hair, and they're like, you must be dyeing your hair. I'm like, no, this is my hair. There's no dye. This is my natural hair. And there's no wrinkle. There's, I wear a little bit of makeup, so because of the light, I don't want to look like a washout, but that's it. But you're a guy, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
So I believe that it's what you believe in that you create. So that part, I agree that you are creating stuff, but you didn't put any thought in creating that future war soldier thing. Or am I wrong?
No, right? there was no
it's
thought.
Not like you were meditating. It was like creating this persona. I'm a soldier in the future. I'm going to make this happen. And now you're feeling, right? That's not what happened. So anyway, that's my personal opinion. I really think you just were able to go and plug into that consciousness and realize, wow, I can experience that life. So in the same way that I can experience past one, you experience a future one.
Absolutely. And what you're saying actually makes a lot of sense and ties back into what I figured out when I learned quantum physics, is that if you go back and look into the double slit experiment, it basically explains that molecular structure is neither wave nor form until it's observed, right? So basically nothing happens in this reality until something looks at it. Well, exactly what you're talking about. We emit frequencies and photons out of our bodies. We're observing things. We are the antenna that interacts with the sentient biomolecular reality. I believe it's an infinite plane. That's how we have a universe in universes. It's an infinite plane of biomolecular sentient molecules, basically. And we, as the vessels that inhabit this particular spot, project frequency and emit energies that create our reality around us.
Absolutely.
You know, that's
which is why we need to start thinking positive things.
Yeah.
Not thinking I know there's bad shit going on in this world. I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. But we need to stop focusing on that. We need to start focusing on the good stuff and bring more love, more joy, more happiness, and focus on these things to get the flow of that energy to take over the negative stuff, right? Yeah. I had to squeeze that in there.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. Like I've done shows on this predictive programming. Okay. It's why they keep showing us certain things on television and movies. One is they have to show us what they're doing. That's just part of the agreement. Like, they can do crazy shit as long as they put it in movies. And if we don't get it, that's our fault, right? That's the little loophole that they use. But there also is predictive programming. You take shows like The Simpsons and like Family Guy and stuff that constantly seem to have things that happen like 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years before it actually happens. That's predictive programming. That's showing it to enough people, because how many fans do The Simpsons have? How many people observed the reality that they projected onto us, and it was in our thoughts? Well, now we're projecting that thought onto the biomolecular form, which receives it as an idea. And
because it happened, now people are like, oh my God, I'm watching The Simpsons because they're going to predict the future. And it's like, no, because that's not how it works. But
yeah.
God, my best brother, I love him, but he's really stressed with things that are going on in the world right now. So we were talking on the phone, and I was like, okay, I said, what are you focusing on right now? Well, I got to move. I got to go in the woods. I got to, prepare myself. The end of the world is coming. I'm like, right. So you're sending this into the world. I, on the other hand, I am trying to tell you, focus on the good stuff instead. And that's what you're going to throw into the world, right? And again, I just find it amazing that whenever I'm trying to get a point across and I can't seem to, reach the people, there's a movie that pops up and I'm like, see, that's what I've been saying. So, I don't know if you remember, it's a George Clooney movie, The World of Tomorrow. And he's a kid and he goes to Walt Disney and he's trying to present his invention, which is a jetpack, I guess. And it doesn't quite work, but he gets into a portal and he goes where all the brilliant scientists that don't want to participate in creating bombs and wars and things like that go, and they created this other world in a different dimension. And anyway, the movie is about this girl, and she's refusing to say, but there must be something we can do to fix it, right? So that she's in ecology, and they're talking about the biosphere, this and that, everything being destroyed, and then she goes to this other class, and she's like, but what can we do? So she keeps asking. So this guy says, you might be the one that tips the scale, because the world was doomed to end 7 days later. But because of her, the 100% became a 99. And he's like, so if you are not following the programming, maybe you can help us undo the programming. And so they go into this other dimension, and they realize that the reason why everybody is on that programming is because the antenna of the other dimension had been tampered with and was projecting those images. And so you were seeing it in your dreams. The minute you would go to like neutral. I don't know if you've ever had that neutral space. It's the place where you don't have an idea. You're not worrying about anything. You're just like, your brain is like flatlining. And at that point, you're the most impressionable. And that antenna would then squeeze in there and squeeze, scary things, scary images. So anyway, they destroyed the antenna, which stops feeding these negative images, and the world recovered.
I could see that. It's kind of what's going on.
So I'm there trying to tell people, please stop focusing on the scary, the negative. Just re-ask yourself. Like I was talking to my son. My son's going to be 32 this year. And he says, I want this for he just had a baby. I want this for my son. I want this for my son. And it's okay if I'm not the hero of my own life. I'm like, wait a second. Wait a minute. What do you mean you're not the hero of your own life? What is this? What are you talking about? So he's like, he says, maybe I won't do anything amazing or fantastic. And my job was just to create him. And he's going to do all the magnificent things. And I'm like, are you shitting me right now? You're just 32 years old. You're ready to give up? Come on. So just for the sake of the conversation, how old are you, Don?
47.
Right. So this happened at about 45, right?
Yeah,
it
44, 45.
Yeah, and it started happening for me. I was about his age. I got divorced, and that's when I kind of got away from the dark pit of negativity and tar and cleaned myself up and started shining my light. I was 32. So, I'm like, dude, it doesn't happen when you're 15. Only Jesus, he was 12.
Yeah.
Not all of us have the perfect situation, and everything is so, geared for you to be there kind of thing, right? So, I think it takes time for us to understand. Our experiences are guiding us to this point. You can't do it without experience. You can't do it without, you know what I mean? Events happening that trigger you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I just want to hit on something that I've said a couple of times is, to your point, like, and I was guilty of it. And like life was getting really crappy for Kyla and I. Like she got hit in an accident and blah, blah. And it just seemed to be perpetual. And it's like, that was when we figured it out. It's like, if you keep saying this sucks, it's just going to keep sucking because your subconscious is helping you create your reality, right? That's part of our projection system is the subconscious and the pineal. And if you're sitting there going, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, your brain and your subconscious is sitting there like it's taking a freaking restaurant order. Oh, they want more suck. Oh, more suck. More suck? Yeah, okay, even more suck. It still sucks. Stop asking for it. Because when you keep saying it sucked, it's going to keep sucking.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so, our Instagram feed
and it was
cuts after 1 hour, but we're still on Facebook and YouTube. We're live, and I just want to tell you guys that we're seeing your comments on there, and we are happy that you're participating in this with us. If you are posting comments or questions after the show has aired, at least on my channels, right? I'm sure Don will answer your questions on his channels, but if you post them on my channels, on my Facebook, my YouTube, I'll be happy to follow up in writing, right? So it's not because you're streaming this at a different time that you can't ask a question. We'll be happy to follow with all of that. So again, I just want to remind everybody that we are here with Don Rogers, and Don has had a bunch of experiences which made him question reality and his own life, and made him, and this is what I appreciate so much about you, and I want to give you like A+, because the effort that you made to find the answers, the effort that you put in educating others about what you're finding and allowing them, not convincing them, not pushing them towards where you want them to be, but more letting them know, this is the information I got. Look it up, guys. Go look for some of your own answer. Go do your own searches. And you have really opened up on your journey about the different questions that you started asking and the different realities and level of consciousness and dimensions. And I'm impressed. And that's why I wanted you to be on this show with me on this podcast, because you didn't have any teachers. no mentors, right? So you were literally this one guy alone and going, okay, well, I'm gonna try lift. Right? So, and that's impressive, because I think people need to know not everybody's gonna have a teacher, a mentor, a yogi, or you can do this. It takes some time, it takes effort, and I know you've put in the time and the effort, which is why you're here today with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have you. But anyway, I was impressed enough, and I wanted the people who listen to me and watch me all the time hear it from someone else.
I appreciate that. And I am going to commend the universe, because there has been integral people that the universe has put directly in my path at times that I needed to understand things. And that short list would include people like you, Frank Castle, Karen Holt, and Chris Matthew. Like, there is a list of people that have helped me understand along my journey. And Kyla, she was on this deep dive 6 years before I even woke up. So having a partner that understood what the hell I was talking about, that was already preloaded with this, made this transition a lot easier, because I've seen and been friends with people that are wide awake, like eyes wide open, and their partner's asleep and their life looks terrible and it seems awkward and hard. And like, I just happened to fall into the perfect situation in this universe for me to understand this the way I have. I had a loving partner that was years ahead of me on the information. And like I said, the universe has handed me the gift of these well-researched and well-read people that are years ahead of me. And I can sit there and ask them, like you've been on my show 2 or 3 times now. I can write down my 101 questions. Like, when I was figuring this out, what would I have wanted to know? Right? Sorry, that crash in the background was our cat.
It's okay. Can't be worse with all the audio issues we got. That's not.
I was like, what would I have wanted to know? And that's still where I try to come from, is like, I watch the comments in the chats. I watch what people comment after my show, and it's like, damn, that's a good question. I'm going to ask the next person that's in this field. I'm going to go with that question. Like, I do get a lot of my questions from comments and stuff that people write on my show as well.
But that's how my podcast started years ago. I just realized I've been doing podcasts since 2013. I was like, what? I'm surprised myself. But at first I was like, hey, so what should I talk about, right? And they were live before COVID. I had actual people coming while we were doing the recording, which was really cool, because people would jump in, ask the questions and stuff. So at the end of it, when we concluded, they're like, there's a question I have, and so I would do like you. I would write those questions out. Like, okay, well, this looks like Atlantis. We'll do an Atlantis one, So and I would actually open it up on Facebook and thing and say, okay, so if you have a question about Atlantis, now's your chance. The podcast is next week, kind of thing, or whatever. So yeah, I think that it's an important role that you're playing in being able to bring those questions, give it a forum, a place to discuss this, and allow people to avoid it from an easy understanding. Because you and I, we could go way up here. We could talk from a whole other level, but we'd lose everybody. Everybody go, what are they talking about? Wait, what? That just happened. So, and that's another thing. It's a gift, to be able to do that. So I just thought I'd throw you a few flowers.
I appreciate that. And that is one thing that Kyla is very patient with me. Like, she literally goes out of her way to find people like you that understand what the hell I'm talking about, because a lot of it does go above her pay grade. And she is by far not a certain person. You've met her, you've interacted with her. But when I get to a certain pay grade and Gnosis is coming in, and I'm just like, blah, 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 she's like, yeah, you should go talk to that guy. And then right? And that's basically how I make friends. It's like, hi, my wife knows about you, and I know this, and yeah, I just end up talking to people.
And it's great. It's great. So now, would you mind if I ask you, in what way did I help you? Well, I think it was my podcast that really helped, or did you take a class, or?
It was actually we went to the metaphysical fair because she was looking for an instructor, and you and I got chit-chatting about doing a podcast, and then I found your your stuff and went through it, and like we had already spoke about the idea of doing a show, and then I got a chance to look at your library and was like, holy shit, yeah, I could do about 20. And yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. Like, she went there looking for an instructor, and she saw some of the other people in the modality that she was interested at the time. She did. I don't even think we knew that you were running it at the time. Oh, we did?
Okay.
She's nodding. We did know, but then she's like, I think when we were walking out, she's like, I think I just found my teacher. And then I think I just found one of my podcast guests. Right? and that was basically how we became fans of Sonya. Like, it was just
sweet
from there.
Well, we are trying to put together the fair again this year. We're looking for the vendors to sign up. We've got 25% of the table sold, so it looks like it's happening. So we would like to do it. The idea is, some people call it a spiritual fair, but it's not. When you get there, it's not what you expect, right? So no. I tell my vendors, obviously you're there to sell some products, but also try to be informative, try to be not just about, well, buy my thing and then I'll tell you kind of thing, right? Just and that's why we have the conferences and we have different speakers. So we're trying to encourage that openness, that open mind, that discussion. I think that's the key to everything. I think that's really what we're going to be able to change things.
I think so too. And that was one thing I appreciated about being at your event, is how informative a lot of the people that had tables were. And I still have to get them all put into one video for you. But like I did basically, well, you were one of them. I was doing little rapid fire 10 to 15 minute interviews, and the knowledge, like I actually had, I have another guest coming up in March that is somebody from your event who reached out to me. She's like, hey, do you remember? I'm like, actually, I've had health issues. I didn't get into it, but I had like 5 million things. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like flicking through the videos going, okay, yeah, now I remember. Right. And like, she's going to be on in March, I believe. So yeah, like it was an amazing event. And like, if people are in the area, they should absolutely go, because like, I'm not one for being in large groups of people, and I was perfectly comfortable the entire weekend. So,
well, we have a venue that is calm and that encourages. We tell the vendors that we don't want doubles of things, so there's no competition. Yeah. Right? So there's one person doing tarot reading, the other person may read auras, but there's only that one person. So if that's what you want, then that's the one you go to. You know what I mean? So we're trying to foster a cooperative rather than a competition, and I think that the vendors kind of appreciated that it's more laid back, and if you're selling stuff, it's because your stuff's good. If you're not, then you got to ask yourself, am I pricing it too high? Is the quality look good? Or but there's no other competition here, so there's no one taking their customers away. So yeah. So out of all this, my gosh, because we're about to wrap it up, we only have 13 minutes left. So I mean, out of all, we've only, we didn't even touch half of the stuff that you discovered or you learned about. And is there something else we haven't talked about that you would want to bring this up?
Ooh.
So I don't know. There's ayahuasca journeys. The shaman, maybe shamanic practices, healing modalities. Is there something on that we can chat about? Did any of those practices help you heal? Because you've had quite a few dramatic scares.
There has been a lot of energy workers that have reached out, and I have had amazing results in the short term. And I actually think I might have figured out, and it is just the dumbest reason why I'm sick, and I'll tell you off the air because it's actually kind of embarrassing.
Okay.
But no, there's been a lot of energy workers that have reached out and offered free services, and like a lot of them are just kind-hearted, good people trying to help. And I think that's what I appreciate most about that part of the community. But if I had to go out on something that I've figured out on this journey so far that I think is fundamental for people to understand, it's that, as Sonya and I were saying, we create this reality. Well, one of the key factors in your creation is your emotional frequency. And you cannot allow other people to affect your emotional frequency, because that vibration that you're emitting is what is affecting your reality and directly creating the experience that you're going to have in this life. And if you continue to allow other people to control your energy through emotional abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, of this other bullshit, they're going to control your experience. Do you want to work the rest of your life for somebody else to have a happy life, or do you want to have it? Because it really is up to you. You have to control your emotional frequency and how much you allow other people to affect your reality.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. You can absolutely feel the feelings of trauma and abuse and gaslighting, but you don't have to live in it. You have to experience it, learn from it, move on, and get better.
Wow. Powerful message, right? We've been talking for 80 minutes, and there it is in like 1 minute. You're creating your own reality. And I know that if you're not happy right now, and if things are difficult, you might find what we're saying irritating or hard to believe, or you name it. Because, and this is why I wrote my biography, to tell people that there was a time when I was unhappy, when I was miserable, when I had all these, short on money and my gosh, right there. But then I understood what we just said. And I was like, and like I told my son, no, you're the hero of your own life. Dude, you're in charge. You're the boss of, you're literally writing down your life. So why on earth would you write you out as a hero? It's your book. Like, come on, put yourself back as a hero now. What do you need to be a hero in your life? And if it is, it's very much our limitations. We've been programmed with limitations. And so we need to be able to extract our limitation. Not, well, I don't have enough money to go back to school. Really? Well, you could get student loans. You could cut back on your expenses. You could, like I don't believe in jewelry. I don't believe in expensive clothes. I don't believe in showing off. I don't believe in the big, I don't know. I don't have anything against people driving a Porsche, but I don't see why I should spend that much money when I can get a car that gets me from A to B for much cheaper, which allows me to then have more financial freedom, either to go back to school or to go on a trip somewhere or to take a class, or, so I think that's where we need to re-examine our lives and ask ourselves, okay, so what can I change? What do I have power over? And start there. Start changing the little things. And then once these things start, rolling, then you realize, oh my God, like this is really changing, right? My life is gonna be different. Give it another year, and you won't even recognize where you were, a year ago. Wow, it's an amazing show. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah.
So I'm just going over the list of stuff, the questions I sent you. I want to make sure we covered everything. Right, so we talked about that. So what do you think that all of this experience that you've went through, and now you're running the After Dark show and you're doing the podcast because you still have your day job, but how do you personally benefit?
Honestly, I come away from the large majority of my shows feeling like I just had better therapy than I could have ever possibly paid for. And I've had other guests say it as well, that it comes off therapeutic, because I do try to dial it in as a very laid back conversation. And a lot of the times me and the guests both are talking out the ideas and understandings as we're doing the show. it's inner work on live YouTube. That's the best way I can explain it, because most of the time there's some type of healing. My guest will teach me something, I'll teach them something. And it's just, this is one of the key things too. And you were saying about how this might be irritating to people. It's the gratitude that you take away too, because if you don't have gratitude, you're not going to progress, right? So each time I'm grateful that I've had a guest and gotten to understand and learn something new, it kind of levels me up. It makes me feel like I've got something else that's in dawn now. I've got a new piece of me and I can share this with the world. And, I might not even need this right now, but in 6 years, 3 months, and 27 days and 37 seconds, that guy is going to freaking need to know this, right? Because that's just the way it goes with this type of information. But no, that's the second and probably second best point I could hit home is gratitude. Because even if it's I'm grateful I'm alive, I've lived in a freaking dumpster, people. I've been a full-blown alcoholic and drug addict. I've been broke, I've been poor, I've been beaten, I've been abused, and I'm still smiling because I'm grateful that I'm alive. That's all I need.
And
Just
and
one.
that is the spiritual transformation I'm preaching about. You can change your life from wherever you came from to finding the place where you belong. You understand you have purpose. You understand that you're important and you have a role to play. And I think that, like you said, I only have a grade 10 education. So I'm trying to tell people, you don't need to be a PhD and you don't need to be super well known to do what we do. You do it for the people who need it, and who needs us finds us. And they find us today, they find us 5 years from now, but they'll find us when they need us because we've done the work and we're trying to put it out there so that it's there when they need it. So again, bravo. So if there's a newcomer that's watching this video tonight, when do you think they should start?
Where would they start? I would start with looking into the things you suspect. Because even when we're asleep, we'll call it, even when I was asleep, I knew there was things wrong with the reality that I was in. I just ignored them.
So, what do you mean? I know what you mean, but explain it. What do you mean by awake and asleep?
Okay, there's those of us that are just in the 9 to 5 grind that pay no attention to the metaphysical, spiritual, or any of the energetic workings of the reality. We're just existing. You're having that 9 to 5 life. And I have friends that have told me, or not told me, but asked me not to explain any of this stuff to them because they're perfectly content in their 9 to 5 life. Those are what I call normal people. And then awakened people are the ones that have done the deep dive into the metaphysical, the spiritual, the esoteric, other religions, other peoples, because all of it has something to offer. Like I believe the secrets of this universe has been scattered across the entire planet. And that's why all the division, because, if we all figured out how to put it all together, that's a problem for the ones that spread all the information out. And that is one of the things I do try to do on my show is like, take what resonates with you and just leave the rest, because it doesn't matter to you right now. But the truth of this reality is finding the spots where it lines up with everybody, because you and I have certain understandings about consciousness that are on the exact same line, right? And they're the same as the next person that I know that does this. They're the same as the next and the next. That is as close as we can get to confirmation of truth in a spiritual nature, right? When we all see something and we're all working towards something, that's the reality we're creating, and that's our truth, right? And I think that is probably one of the best things I could say about it.
All right. So not being afraid to ask questions, start reading, start looking. I think that for me, the thing I tell people is it's not because I tell you that you should buy it and take it to the bank, right? All I'm saying that should be enough to at least make you curious and make you ask questions. Like the example I took earlier with Shirley MacLaine. Well, she says she's read Aristotle, she read Plato, she read this, she read that. Well, okay, well then I'll make my own in mine. And I went and I read those same books, and that's how I created my universe that I have today, right? So yeah, so ask questions, look it up. And I've put all the contact information for Don and his channel. So if you guys are like, wow, my God, I want to hear more about what this guy's doing, please go and listen to him. Then the best way to do this is always to like or subscribe. So then you will get a Sonya's live or Don's live right now. So that's how the best way to keep up with the materials we're creating, I guess. And do you have anything coming up, Don?
I have a show coming up on Friday with Fearless Frank Castle. We're going to be discussing something I had to actually look at because it's an experience I haven't had, but it's one that's on the tip of everybody's tongue right now, and that's Mall World. And I'm on Mall World. Apparently, there is a group collective consciousness that have been experiencing other stages of conscious reality in a mall, and it's happening to a lot of people. So
really?
this is a new subject for me, and it's something I haven't dug into. So I'm very excited because Frank is actually an ayahuasca shaman. He's a neo shaman in New York, and we've had some amazing conversations on like soul beings and creator beings and all of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to this because it's an area I haven't touched on. So I'm going to learn some stuff this week.
Okay, so it's Friday. Let me look at the calendar. February 27th. At what time?
At 6 p.m. Mountain.
6 p.m. Mountain. Okay. And they all the contacts are down there. So Don streams to all these different areas. So you just pick the ones you're most comfortable or familiar with, and you can join him on there. Would you be comfortable with sharing your email? If someone has a question for you, or you want to reach out or say, hey, I had something really unique happen to me, maybe I should be on your show or whatever, would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah, I can give that to you, or I'll even say it on the air. It's just my entire name. It's Donald Allen Rogers at hotmail.com, and it's ALLAN ROGERS.
Okay, so hang on, I'm typing it in the comments. DONALDALLAN ROGERS at hotmail.com. All right. Yeah. Well, there we go. Whoops. Anyway, close enough. .com, people. So it's in the comment. It's on YouTube comments and Facebook comments. So if someone has something really unique going on and they can contribute, you just never know how we can connect to people, right? Sometimes it's just unusual and crazy. The show is also not live, but then I put it on Podbean, so it's available on podcasts for Apple Music and all these other places as well. So sometimes that's why I like to spell it out a little slower than you. So if they're actually listening on the Podbean or Apple Podcasts or whatever, and they're like, wait, it's like paper, what did they say? So now we have they're able to contact you.
Yeah, so awesome.
Is there anything else, because it's almost time, so is there anything else that you would like to shout out or share?
You can also find, I think it's in the comments, you can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network on all of the wonderful podcast platforms you just mentioned. And other than that, I would tell everybody basically what I say at the end of every one of my shows. If you can, please go outside, because it's a lot better than being in front of a screen. It really is.
Wow. As long as they stay with us just for 1 hour.
Yeah, stick around for this.
So as for us here in Drumheller, an hour east of Calgary, Alberta, we are having a Reiki share tomorrow. So if you'd like to join us, everybody's welcome. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. And we're having the fair. We're looking for vendors. So that's a great way for you guys to get known, share your knowledge, meet new people. So, and if you need anything, email, call, leave a message. We'll be happy to get back to you. So Don, again, thank you so much for everything. It was a pleasure to have you tonight.
Thank you, Sonya.